It is very unusual. Samsung Electronics is a company that has its history since 1969, and such a strike action is unprecedented. It just has never happened before. Very unusual. It's a landmark in the history of South Korean unionism.
And of course, they weren't really allowed to strongly unionize. Why have they been able to galvanize this kind of support in recent times?
In South Korea, recently, unionization rate has been rising. 10 years ago, it was very low by rich country standards. It was around 9%. Now it stands at 14% and it's climbing up. It has something to do with the fact that South Korea has a very strict neoliberal regime imposed on it, with lots, for example, of non-permanent labor force. Around 38% of all workers are non-permanent. Then there are very long working hours, punishing militarized work, labor discipline, and all this pushes workers to fight back. So recently we had a sort of revival of militant unionism in South Korea, and this strike is one expression of that trend.
They have, though, faced a couple of issues with the company. Take us through some of their grievances.
Absolutely, grievances are many, and they include seriously poor occupational safety, health hazards. There were cases of leukemia, the white blood disease, at Samsung Electronics, and more than 100 workers died because of the reasons which, according to their lawyers, might have been related to occupational safety. Most cases, the company had to recognize the damage and paid the compensation, thus recognizing the safety was indeed poor. So there are very real grievances beyond this strike.
We know, of course, that negotiations failed, which is why they are on strike. So what sort of response are we starting to see from the company?
Well, so far they are telling the world that nothing bad happens, that the semiconductors are being produced as usual, businesses as usual, and they try always to emphasize the fact that only 5% of Samsung Electronics workforce are on strike, which is true. However, those 5% are mostly the workers at the key positions on the lines where the semiconductors are being produced. And semiconductors is, for now, that South Korea's most important export, and that's cash cow for Samsung. So according to the union, if you believe it, it looks as if the production line has been affected. There are problems on the production line. So union believes that the company will be forced to negotiate in the end.
Yeah. Let's turn now to this sort of long-running dispute that young doctors have had with the government. This week, the government backed down on plans to actually cancel the licenses of these striking doctors. Where are we at with this dispute?
Well, it appears as if in the case of striking doctors, most likely the government will attempt a sort of compromise with them. The thing is that doctors are not exactly considered workers in South Korea. Their average income is around 6 times higher than the average wage in South Korean manufacturing. So they are supposed to be rich people. The reason why they strike, they don't want the government to increase their enrollment at the medical faculties of South Korean universities, since they don't want too many competitors and they want to keep the incomes high as they are now. So it's a very privileged sector of South Korean society, and that is exactly the reason why government treats them so mildly. When the workers strike, believe me, South Korean government can be much, much harsher than that.
That is interesting. I did understand, though, that there was something of an oversupply of doctors to the point of actually raising registrations could have caused a problem down the line.
That's also true. In fact, the number of doctors per 100,000 people in South Korea is relatively low compared with other rich industrialized societies. So in case the licenses are cancelled en masse, yes, most likely the system would have been seriously affected. But the paucity of doctors, the scarcity of doctors is exactly why they're so well paid. And the doctors want to have it exactly this way.
Yeah,
That's why they strike.
Keep it as it is, but it looks like it may be over soon. Tell me, what did you make of these comments from a South Korean politician that blamed the rising rate of suicide among men, which is a problem, but he's blaming it on women?
Well, you have extreme right-wingers blaming everything on whom they usually blame, women and foreigners.
Yeah.
Foreigners in South Korea are not as many as in many Western societies. Around 4.5% of South Korea's total population are of foreign origins. So if you don't have enough foreigners, you blame women. That's a very obvious tactic.
I mean, why not? It's our problem.
Well, you don't take this rubbish seriously, of course. The problems with suicides really do exist in South Korea. They have almost as many suicides as much poorer countries than them, like Lithuania, for example, or Belarus. But this has very little to do with gender problems. It has something to do with enormous pressures imposed by what I have mentioned, neoliberal labor regime. And also strict academic discipline. You have, for example, the category of Sonjok Pigwan Chasal, suicides literally caused by pessimism over my grades. If you don't get good enough grades, you kill yourself. So you have reasons like this, and of course a general trend to destabilize working environment by imposing short-term contracts. It destabilizes also people's psychology. If you're on half a year, 1 year contract, it's not easy to live a comfortable life. So
No,
it's neoliberalism, obviously, not women.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, the women are probably under even more pressure in many, many ways. Yes, it's an intensely driven culture that I think is, as you point out, some problems that are emerging. Really great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.